Clutch your hat. This is Jesse James, not as dime novel myth, but as a man defined by the steel he carried. 10 firearms that built Jesse James' legend, shaping his rise, raids, and the betrayal that ended him. Stay with me. Each one reveals a chapter of his life. Number 10. Colt 1851 Navy. The bushwhacker's revolver. Early guerrilla years. Before Jesse James was an outlaw, he was a bushwhacker in Missouri's guerrilla war, and his sidearm was the Colt 1851 Navy. The 1851 Navy is a .36 caliber, 6-shot cap and ball revolver weighing around 2.5 pounds, with about a 7.5-inch barrel. The Navy offered surprising accuracy for its day and was light enough for a mounted raider. For a teenage Jesse operating in dense timber and ambushes, the Navy's stopping power and dependable sight picture mattered more than rate of fire. He often carried several pistols, a practical compensation for the slow reloads of percussion arms. The 1851 Navy marks the origin of the James gunsmithing, simple, rugged, and lethal at close quarters. Next, when firepower had to grow with the man. Number 9. Colt 1860 Army. The escalation to deadlier handguns. War-hardened. As Jesse matured and the fights grew bloodier, he favored heavier calibers. The Colt 1860 Army in .44. Lighter than later cartridge arms but more powerful than the Navy, the 1860 Army served cavalry and irregulars alike, supplying bigger ballistics and reach. The Army is a .44 caliber 6-shot single-action revolver, with a common cavalry barrel of approximately 8 inches and weighing around 2.9 pounds. This revolver symbolizes Jesse's shift from teen guerrilla to hardened fighter. In several skirmishes, larger caliber hits left less chance of survival for wounded opponents, a grim efficiency that outlaws quickly learned to value. Next, when range and rapid repeatability mattered. Number 8. Sharps Carbine, the guerrilla rifle, Missouri bushwhacking. Guerrilla warfare rewarded accurate fire from cover. The Sharps Carbine, a breech-loading rifle widely used during the Civil War, gave irregular units a major edge in ambushes and skirmishes. Contemporary accounts show Sharps Carbines in use across Missouri's guerrilla engagements, and they were part of the toolbox available to bushwhackers in Jesse James's world. While Sharps were common, among irregulars, direct documentary evidence tying a particular Sharps to Jesse himself is limited. Jesse's own record is strongest with Colt revolvers and repeating rifles. The Sharps Carbine was commonly a .52 caliber, with some variants in .54, with a falling block breech action. The typical carbine barrel is around 22 inches and weighs around 7.5 pounds. It also offered much faster reloads than muzzle loaders. The Sharps' reputation for delivering a precise, hard-hitting shot from cover made it the logical choice for fighters who valued distance and concealment. Next, when outlaws needed workhorse sidearms for criminal life. Number 7. Remington New Model Army. The outlaw's workhorse. Post-war robberies. After the war, Jesse and his circle relied on robust sidearms for the criminal life. The Remington New Model Army, a .44 caliber cap and ball revolver, allowed preloaded spare cylinders and severe handling, critical for raids. The Remington New Model Army in .44 percussion is a 6-shot solid frame revolver with top strap, stronger than open frame Colts, with a typical barrel length of around 8 inches and weighing about 2.8 to 3 pounds. Robbery reports and later depositions note that gang members commonly swapped preloaded cylinders during early robberies, a frontier-era workaround for slow reloads that Remington's solid frame design uniquely enabled. That discipline let the James gang sustain fire and control chaos during bank and stagecoach hits. Next, the James Younger gang, who they were and what ended them. It wasn't just one man with a gun. After the Civil War, Jesse and Frank James joined with the Younger brothers, Cole, Jim, John, and Bob, forming the James Younger gang, a band of ex-Confederates who turned wartime skills into a ruthless criminal enterprise across the Midwest. The group coalesced in the late 1860s and ran organized raids through the 1870s, perfecting coordinated ambushes with repeaters and revolvers. Their organized operations effectively ended after the failed Northfield, Minnesota raid on September 7, 1876, when the Youngers were captured and the gang scattered. Jesse and Frank continued as outlaws individually until Jesse's death in 1882. Next, when cartridge revolvers changed the rules. Number 6. Smith & Wesson Model 3. Schofield. The cartridge revolution. By the 1870s, metallic cartridges arrived. Jesse adapted. The top-break Smith Wesson Model 3 Schofield reloaded in seconds and used metallic cartridges rather than loose powder and ball. That speed and modernity gave outlaws an edge against posse still using percussion gear. The Smith & Wesson Model 3 Schofield was typically in .45 Schofield chambering, shorter case than .45 Colt, with a 6-shot top-break single action with automatic extractor. The common barrel length is 6 to 7 inches and weighs around 2.5 to 3 pounds. The Schofield's instant ejection and cartridge use marked Jesse's embrace of modernization, faster, cleaner, and more efficient in a firefight. Next, when repeaters rewrote the balance of fire. Number 5. Henry Rifle, the repeater of rebellion, train and stagecoach robberies. Before Winchester dominated, the Henry repeating rifle delivered 15 rounds of .44 Henry rimfire downrange through a tubular magazine, lever-action repeat fire that overwhelmed single-shot defenders. It has a barrel length of 24 inches and weighs 9 to 10 pounds for full lengths. In ambushes and train robberies, a repeating rifle multiplied an outlaw's dominance. Train robbery accounts from the era record guards surrendering when confronted with rapid lever-action fire. Repeated volleys kept passengers pinned while the gang controlled the locomotive and loot. For Jesse's gang, the Henry's repeat capability translated directly into operational control. Next, when shared ammo simplified a life on the run. Number 4. Winchester Model 1873, the gun that won the West, common ammo advantage. The Winchester 1873 let riders carry a single cartridge type for both rifle and pistol. That logistical simplicity mattered to outlaws during fast moves and long chases. The lever action's rapid cycling and ample capacity made supply and movement easier, a practical edge Jesse valued. The Winchester 1873, commonly in .44-40, featured a lever action with a tubular magazine capacity, the typical length of 20 to 24 inches and weight of 7 to 8 pounds, depending on model. That commonality reduced the need for scavenging disparate cartridges while on the run, a small but decisive advantage when every resupply risked exposure to lawmen. Next, when a short-range equalizer was needed. Number 3. Double-barrel shotgun, coach gun, the equalizer. At close quarters, the double-barrel coach gun was the great equalizer, short, brutal, and immediately decisive with buckshot. Jesse's gang carried shotguns to intimidate and end resistance quickly. One blast could end a fight or force surrender. The simplicity of the coach gun made it indispensable when confrontation closed to inches. The coach gun is typically a 12-gauge with a break-action side-by-side configuration with short barrels approximately 18 to 20 inches optimized for vehicle and coach use. It has an immediate 2-shot pattern with powerful buckshot. Contemporary reports emphasize the coach gun's role as a crowd control tool during robberies. Its presence reduced firefights and sped compliance, which was exactly what outlaws needed when speed and control counted more than nuance. Next, the revolver Hollywood remembers, and the one found after his death. Number 2. Colt Single Action Army, the peacemaker in an outlaw's hand. The Colt Single Action Army, the peacemaker, was the frontier's reigning revolver and a symbol of authority. Chambered often in .45 Colt or .44-40, it offered reliability, display power, and the quick-draw mythology that defined the West. For Jesse, the SAA embodied frontline authority, even as he lived outside the law. The Colt Single Action Army, whether in .45 Colt or .44-40, has a 6-shot single-action cylinder. Its barrel lengths vary from 4.75 inches, 5.5 inches, or 7.5 inches, and weighs around 2.5 pounds depending on configuration. Public fascination with the peacemaker helped transform outlaws into folk figures. The gun's presence in theater and press photos ensured Jesse's image would endure long past his death. Next, the gun that ended the legend, contested, bitter, final. Number 1. The revolver that killed Jesse James, the contested final shot. April 3, 1882, St. Joseph, Missouri. Jesse James at home turned his back, and Robert Bob Ford fired the shot that ended the man. Robert, forever later known as the Coward, for his undoing of Jesse James, was part of the James Gang. Robert and his brother made a deal to collect a reward for Jesse James. Multiple contemporary reports and later research identify the murder weapon variously as a Smith Wesson Model 3 or a Colt revolver. Because chain of custody documentation is incomplete and claims conflict, the safest historical reading is this: Jesse James was felled by a revolver fired by Bob Ford. Historians disagree, provenance is debated, and museum records remain cautious. Candidates include the Smith & Wesson Model 3, top break 6-shot cartridge revolver, common service barrel 6 to 7 inches, chamberings varied, or a Colt fixed frame cartridge revolver. Because accounts conflict, neither model can be stated as definitive without museum accession documentation. The irony is bitter. A life lived by the gun ended by a single bullet in a quiet betrayal. Not a blazing outlaw stand. That shot closed Jesse's chapter and opened 100 legends. The guns that wrote a life. From the black powder Colt of a teenage guerrilla to the cartridge revolvers and repeaters of his criminal career, Jesse James guns map the transformation of America's arms and the man himself. Each weapon marks a chapter: war, adaptation, innovation, and ultimately betrayal. These were not merely tools of crime. They were outward signs of a life shaped by violence, loyalty, and the machinery of history. Where the guns live now, representative period examples and James-era artifacts appear in public collections. For direct James connections and the 1882 events, consult Jesse James Home Museum, St. Joseph, Missouri. House Museum with period artifacts and local provenance holdings. Patty House Museum, St. Joseph, Missouri. Related exhibits and local archives. NRA National Firearms Museum, Cody Firearms Museum, Springfield Armory. Representative Henry, Winchester, Colt. Examples for technical study. Consult accession records for provenance. If you intend to cite a specific artifact as Jesse James' personal property, request written provenance from the holding museum. Accession numbers, donor history. Museum claims of direct ownership are often debated and should be verified by primary records. Which of Jesse's weapons do you think defined him? The Sharps that favored long-range ambushes or the revolver that ended him? Drop your thoughts below and hit subscribe for more deep dives into the real guns that forged America's wildest legends.